Patton Oswalt's Dark Knight Joker theory will blow your mind. The MCU is celebrating a major milestone this year with the 10th anniversary of its inaugural film, Iron Man, but we shouldn't let that overshadow the fact that another modern superhero classic is also getting ready to hit the big 1-0, The Dark Knight.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yep, it was a decade ago this July that Christopher Nolan's sequel to Batman Begins hit the big screen, and while its grim and gritty take on Batman may have set a tone that many of its DC successors have struggled to replicate, there's no denying that, at the time, the film was a revelation, and after 10 years, fans are still finding new ways to watch, dissect, and obsess over it. Which explains why just this week the internet is once again fired up with talk about The Dark Knight, and it all comes courtesy of one of the movie's most high-profile fans, actor and comedian Patton Oswalt. On May 12th, Oswalt posted a new theory about Heath Ledger's Joker to his Facebook page. Now, The Dark Knight's version of the Joker is given even less of a backstory than he usually gets in most Batman stories, appearing out of nowhere as a force of pure chaos looking to bring Gotham City to its knees. Now, this has led to fans coming up with all sorts of theories about who he is and where he came from. But Oswalt's new theory about the character has got everyone rethinking their previous assumptions. So what is his intriguing new hypothesis? Well, we're gonna break it down right now.
And here we go.
Oswalt begins his theory in a familiar place, the idea that Ledger's Joker is a war veteran suffering from a severe case of PTSD. Now, this idea has been floating around ever since the movie first came out. Proponents of this theory point to the character's very specific combination of intense combat skill, ability to strategize elaborate plans of attack, and thorough knowledge of how government systems work as evidence that he has had at least some form of military training. He also references military experience a lot, for example, in his classic line about a truckload of soldiers blowing up. But Oswalt builds upon this theory to pinpoint exactly which part of the military the Joker hails from. According to him, the Joker was a former military intelligence officer with a focus on interrogation. So what is Oswalt using as evidence? Well, in his own words, the Joker is very good at the kind of mindfuckery that sustained professional interrogation requires. He points out the way the character is able to modulate his personality and prey upon his victim's weaknesses the exact way an interrogation officer or Jessica Chobot would.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
He digs into Jim Gordon's sense of isolation, then later appeals to Harvey Dent's obsession with fairness. He even goes on to theorize that when the city eventually calls his bluff and neither of the fairies goes through with blowing up the other, he's actually relieved. That's why we see him laughing and smiling when Batman catches him. Like any good interrogator, he's more intrigued by someone he can't break as opposed to the fury we'd normally expect from the character. Of course, Oswalt's Facebook followers weren't content to just listen to his theory. Plenty of them jumped in to offer their own supporting evidence. One pointed out that the Dark Knight's most iconic scene is literally an interrogation scene where the Joker is actually instructing Batman on how to interrogate him.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy.
I actually think that's super cool. But others have pointed out some holes, like the fact that we learned pretty early on that the Joker has no fingerprints on file, which seems highly improbable for an enlisted military officer. Wherever you stand on Oswalt's theory, there's no denying that it's an interesting one, or that it's pretty amazing that even after all this time, the Dark Knight can still encourage this kind of feverish debate.
There's no going back. You've changed things.
We can't wait to see what kind of theories people are coming up 10 years from now on the film's 20th anniversary, which I will probably still be reporting on. But what do you folks think? Do you buy that the Joker is ex-military intelligence? Do you have your own theory about his origins? And what other 2008 movies do you think deserve a closer look? Personally, we think it's time for a reevaluation of the Wachowski's Speed Racer. I don't think that, they think that, the crew thinks that, I don't think that. I do not like that movie. Let's discuss. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that little bell to get notified anytime we drop a new video. And just in time for Deadpool 2, check out this week's episode of The Dan Cave, where Dan is breaking down everything that you need to know about cable.